Coming up on our newscast today, the country is one step closer to having a federal government as President Duterte accepts a draft charter for the proposal. The Philippines is sending a rescue team to Japan as heavy rains and landslides continue to ravage the East Asian nation, claiming at least 100 lives. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos cries foul over the reported outing of some staff of the Presidential Electoral Tribunal with a revisor of Vice President Leni Robredo. And San Miguel and Barangay Ginebra draw first blood in the opening of the PBA Commissioner's Cup quarterfinals. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our starting point is the nation's top office, where President Rodrigo Duterte said he is ready to endorse the draft constitution for the country's shift to a federal form of government. But the president remains firm on stepping down once the transition to federalism begins. Janice Cabe has our top story.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday approved in toto or as a whole the draft federal constitution and will endorse it to the Congress. Ding Generoso, spokesperson of the consultative committee tasked to draft the federal constitution, confirmed this a few hours after the president received the proposal allowing a shift to a federal system of government. Generoso, however, said the president announced in a cabinet meeting that he wanted to amend the transitory provisions to provide an elected leader during transition after plebiscite. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Duterte was willing to lead the transition to federalism as long as it was within the end of his term in 2022. However, Roque said Duterte apparently changed his mind and would rather cut his term as early as 2019 to be coterminous with the start of the transition period to erase all suspicions about his desire to stay in power beyond the end of his term in 2022. Earlier, the CONCOM said that Duterte will lead the 10-member Transition Commission on Federalism, which will formulate and adopt a transition plan for the orderly shift to the new system of government as provided for in the new constitution. However, the CONCOM will review and revise the transitory provisions in accordance with the President's instructions. Roque, meanwhile, pointed out that it was still up to the Congress to include the provision on the new transition leader in the draft federal constitution. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Malacanang dismisses allegations that the consecutive killings of 3 local officials will be used to impose a nationwide martial law. The palace answered the statement of opposition Senator Francis Pangilinan that the killings could be orchestrated to create an atmosphere of lawlessness in the country. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says martial law is only declared during a rebellion or invasion and cannot be used no matter how many killings happen. Roque also shut down claims made by Amnesty International that Duterte's pronouncements on killings is empowering vigilantes. He also added that vigilante attacks should not be attributed to Duterte since these have been around a long time before his term. Roque, meanwhile, said that the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, is considering an earlier and longer gun ban period for the midterm elections. He also denied that there was a pattern of murders among local government officials. Roque says that he will await results of the investigation before speculating whether the killings were about politics or drugs. No Filipinos have been reported among the fatalities in the mudslides and floods that hit Japan. Based on reports from the Philippine Consulate General in Osaka, Filipinos in the affected areas were advised to heed warnings and evacuate if local authorities order them to do so. Japanese authorities reported that at least 75 persons have died, more than 40 missing, and tens of thousands were displaced in at least 8 western prefectures hit hard by floods and landslides that began last Thursday. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano extended sympathies to Japan and the families of the victims. President Rodrigo Duterte has offered to send a team to help in rescue and rehabilitation efforts in typhoon-ravaged Japan. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Duterte has offered to send Filipino soldiers, including engineers and doctors, to Japan. The president will also send medicine to Japan. Japan was among many countries that extended relief assistance, as well as troops and medical teams in November 2013 when Super Typhoon Yolanda slammed the Visayas region. Malacanang is hopeful that the meeting between President Rodrigo Duterte and Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines President Romulo Valles would result to closer cooperation between the church and state. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Jare Roque confirmed the private meeting between Duterte and Valles on Monday afternoon at Malacanang Palace. He says that after the meeting, they would like to see closer cooperation between the state and the church in their desire to serve the people better. Roque said a subsequent meeting will be arranged between the CBCP and a four-man palace panel tasked to dialogue with different churches, including Catholic groups. The presidential panel is composed of Roque, Cabinet Secretary Jun Evasco, Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Ernesto Abella, and EDSA People Power Commissioner Pastor Boy Saicon. Roque also attended a dinner between Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo and 18 bishops on Sunday ahead of the Duterte-Valles meeting. At least one archbishop brought up the recent negative comments by the president against the Catholic Church. The PNP is beefing up its security precautions to curb violence against local officials ahead of the 2019 midterm elections. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde says the early security measures include intensifying police visibility, random checkpoints, and focused law enforcement operations. Albayalde meanwhile said the killings last week of mayors and vice mayors seem to be unrelated, adding that the police currently have strong leads on the identities of the suspects. He added that breaks in the case may be expected within a week or two. Albayalde also said the PNP is beefing up efforts to crack down on gun-running syndicates and private armed groups. The PNP chief reiterated his plea for individuals facing threats to coordinate with their local police. Still to come, former Senator Bongbong Marcos reports a revisor of the Robredo camp socializing with staff of the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. The government continues to allay fears of the public over the weakening of the peso against the US dollar. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues. The camp of former Senator Bongbong Marcos Jr. is asking the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to probe the recent swimming party of some PET staff, which was joined by a revisor of Vice President Leni Robredo. Marcos' spokesperson Vic Rodriguez says they learned about the outing in Pansol, Laguna through the Facebook account of PET head revisor Maria Catrina Rosales. Among the photos were the 24 personnel together with Osmundo Abuyan, one of the revisors of Robredo in the ongoing election protest of Marcos. The Marcos camp criticized the fraternizing of Robredo's revisor as a breach of ethics and code of conduct. It said the outing implies that Robredo's camp had warmed up with PET personnel to manipulate the recount to her favor. The camp of Robredo, however, says there is nothing wrong with the matter because all revisers from both parties were invited to the said event. Robredo's counsel Romulo Macalintal said in a statement that Marcos's camp even sent food to the outing. The government reiterates there is nothing to worry about the weakening of the peso against the US dollar, saying the exchange rate remains competitive for use in various industries. More on this from Maricor Zapata.
No need to worry about the peso's declining value against the greenback. The Philippines' chief economic planner says the competitive exchange rate is actually beneficial to the country. The peso is currently moving between 53.30 and 53.50 against the dollar. NEDA Secretary Ernesto Pernia points out a competitive exchange rate is good for exports, tourism, remittances, business process outsourcing, and import substituting industries. He said higher exports and tourism and service industry spending can narrow the country's trade deficit. Pernia says the country imports capital goods it needs, especially for the Build infrastructure program and for the improvement of information communications technology, as well as raw materials for manufacturing, which has been doing well since May this year. The NEDA chief attributes the rising trade deficit to protectionism and trade tension, which was not a good environment for exports. Pernia predicts that the country's trade deficit will improve before the end of the year, as inflation is also expected to taper off around the same time. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Maricor Zapata.
The Department of Information and Communications Technology is looking to impose fees against telecom firms that are not efficiently using their awarded frequency spectrums. DICT Secretary Eliseo Rio Jr. said a spectrum user's fee will be charged to inefficient telecom firms to make them pay more for the use of frequencies. This will likely force the inefficient companies to return frequencies, as it would no longer be economical to retain them. The Secretary also reiterated his opposition to the proposed auction of frequency spectrums that will be used as basis for the selection of the new telco player. Rio says some contend that the frequencies are owned by the Filipino people, but these frequencies are totally useless without telcos who have to invest for their infrastructure. He added that the government should not trouble a new telco player for unpaid taxes for frequencies that it has not yet earned. Last June, the DICT directed the National Telecommunications Commission to conduct a review on spectrum user fees being paid by telcos in a bid to improve the state of mobile services in the country. The police in Central Luzon have received 32 brand new vehicles from the Philippine National Police Directorate for Logistics. The distribution of the new Toyota Hilux Patrol Jeep single cab is part of the continuing effort of the PNP to enhance the capabilities of the local police force. The recipients of the new patrol vehicles are the police provincial offices of Aurora, Bataan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, and Tarlac. Police Regional Office 3 Director Chief Superintendent Amador Corpus said the arrival of the new vehicles is very timely as they are vigorously implementing various proactive anti-criminality measures such as around-the-clock checkpoints and mobile patrolling. Corpus expressed belief that with the additional mobility, the public can expect the PNP PRO3 to respond better to crimes and incidents. Corpus also urged the recipients to make good use of the new vehicles at all times. Officials of Makilala, North Cotabato surrendered on Monday 65 assorted loose firearms collected from civilians of the town's 38 barangays. Makilala Mayor Ruby Cawagdan of North Cotabato led the symbolic turnover of the firearms. They were formally received by North Cotabato Police Director Senior Superintendent Maximo Layugan and 39th Infantry Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Rojun Rosales. Cavagdan says the surrender of these firearms signifies the town's all-out support to the disarmament program of President Rodrigo Duterte. Makilala is the 6th local government unit in North Cotabato that turned over loose firearms to police and military authorities. The local governments of Malang, Carmen, Midsayap, Matalam, and Pikit have also surrendered guns in support of the disarmament program of the administration. Up next, San Miguel and Barangay Ginebra draw first blood in the opening of the PBA Commissioner's Cup quarterfinals. Back after a quick break, this is the PNA Newsroom.
Si Pedro ba o si Juan na may dala ng sasakyan? Kung tayo ay may disiplina sa paggamit ng lansangan, hindi natin mararanasan mahuling mano ang banggaan.
Lahat tayong Pilipino may tungkuling gagampanan sa pagbabagong naasam dito sa ating inang bayan. Lahat ay magbabago, maliit man ang paraan, matitiyak pangarap ay agad nating makakamtan. Mga opisyalis ng ating gobyerno, unang magpatupad sa batas trapiko. Walang palakasan at iwasan ang lagay, Pilipinas sa tunay na pagbabago. Mga opisyalis ng ating gobyerno, unang magpatupad sa batas trapiko. Walang palakasan at iwasan ang lagay, Pilipinas sa tunay na pagbabago. Pilipinas sa tunay na pagbabago. Pilipinas sa tunay na pagbabago.
In our regular Salam series, we take a look at Mindanao's rich cultural heritage, including heroes known for their feats and adventures. One such folk hero is Datu Kalun, a brave overlord and arnis master from Basilan, as Benj Bondoc reports.
No less than President Duterte himself lamented that local heroes of the Visayas and Mindanao have not received the recognition they deserve. One such folk hero emerged in Basilan during the final years of the Spanish regime. He is known as Datu Kalun. The late Basilan provincial official lawyer Reynaldo Escobar indicated that Datu Kalun was born on May 6, 1845 in Bacoor, Cavite, and was baptized as Pedro Javier Cuevas. In 1863, he was accused of killing a Guardia Civil and was remanded to the San Ramon Penal Colony in Zamboanga. In 1874, he and about a dozen prisoners escaped and hijacked a boat and sailed to Basilan. They hid in the hinterlands and the Yakan natives tried to kill or eject them. Cuevas, as leader of the fugitives, began to subdue the clans one after another. Cuevas adopted the name Datu Kalun after one of the chieftains whom he killed. After nearly 10 years, he established himself as a local overlord. In 1883, he beat back an attack by Sulu pirates at the Spanish garrison in Isabela town. For that, the colonial government pardoned him and appointed him Teniente Absolute, giving him complete rule in the island on behalf of Spain. He rid Basilan of pirates and overpowered warriors sent by the Sultan to regain control of the vassal island. In his battles, he used his arnis skill to defeat his enemies. Datu Kalun established his base in present-day Lamitan, of which he is considered its founder. He died in Basilan on July 16, 1904. Since 1983, the Lamitan local government has annually held a tribal festivity called Lami-Lamihan to honor the memory of Datu Kalun and showcase the Yakan culture. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondo.
The Department of Education reports that the number of schools in the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao have increased. DepEd ARMM says 2,670 schools have been established in the region. This school year, they are accommodating over 860,000 students in the elementary and secondary levels. Meanwhile, ARMM Education Secretary Rasol Mitmug Jr. says the main office in Manila has released a national module for students in the region. They are now planning to create a localized worksheet written in native languages such as Tausug, Maguindanao, Sama, and Tirusray. The PBA Commissioner's Cup quarterfinals playoffs are on, starting with a face-off between San Miguel and Talk and Text, followed by Ginebra and Meralco. Defending conference champion San Miguel Beermen rallied back from a huge deficit to take a win against Talk and Text. The Beermen recovered from the Katropas' early rally in the first quarter, making a 16-0 run late in the fourth quarter to complete the comeback. Reynaldo Balquin put up an impressive all-around game, tallying 36 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals for the Beermen, who can clinch a semi-final seat in Game 2 on Wednesday night. Meanwhile, Barangay Ginebra drew first blood in their quarterfinals match against Meralco. L.A. Tenorio and Justin Brownlee fended off the Bolts in a defensive grind, ending with a hard-earned 88-81 win. Justin Brownlee finished with 25 points but was far from his best as he made only 10 of 26 attempts from the field. For our feature story, as Mindanao continues to rebuild from the ravages of the Marawi crisis, youth volunteers have banded together to reach out and promote peace in communities. PIA Sweet Lukman reports on this pioneering initiative.
Various initiatives of youth from Iligan City, Lanao del Sur, and Lanao del Norte received recognition with their implemented projects to promote peace under the Project Yakap. Project Yakap, or Youth Amplifying Co-Creating and Advocating Peace, is a leadership development program held for 5 months which aims to strengthen youth participation in amplifying the stories of peace. Project Yakap was developed by volunteers from Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology, and United States government alumni, being inspired by their experiences in evacuation centers and by their friends who were affected by Marawi siege.
We thought of creating a program of bringing in youth in the conversation about peace and security, because we believe that if we talk about securing our home, making our home safe, and making our community peaceful, I need I think we need to include youth in the conversation.
A workshop was held in February where 27 Lanao youth gathered and were grouped into 5 to develop and implement various projects to promote peace in their community. It consists of Kulturismo, Tanaw, Lunhaw Lanao, Peace Wins, and Project Malaya. The Project Yakap workshop was funded by the government of the United States of America through the U.S. Government Alumni Community in partnership with the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines and the College of Arts and Social Sciences of MSU IIT.
Project Yakap, Youth Amplifying, Co-creating, and Advocating Peace!
Together with Lou Antonio, for PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories. The country is one step closer to having a federal government as President Duterte accepts the draft charter for the proposal. The Philippines is sending a rescue team to Japan as heavy rains and landslides continue to ravage the East Asian nation, claiming at least 100 lives. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos cries foul over the reported outing of some staff of the Presidential Electoral Tribunal with a revisor of Vice President Leni Robredo. And San Miguel and Barangay Ginebra draw first blood in the opening of the PBA Commissioner's Cup quarterfinals. Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And remember, always make the effort to feel good. The day may not be perfect, but at least you won't feel miserable at the end of it. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.